Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Meh, he's okay. Um, so today I want to look at the astrology of sports, the astrology of athletes. And guys, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, share if you haven't already. And just a brief introduction. What we're going to see a lot of is obviously fifth house for games, but sixth house for competition, right? And then also eighth house is going to be a very prominent house in a lot of sports because of the competitiveness of the nature of the eighth house. Obviously, some seventh house stuff too, as well, because there's always that relationship, and then so sixth, seventh, eighth all deal with relationship, right? Third house for short distance travel, skills of the hands, a lot of times it's involved with that. Sometimes ninth house, and really all the planets. Sometimes we'll see a very strong Mars. That'll be very obvious. Sometimes the Mars will not play as strong of a role in some charts, and it's other planets. But let's get into it and let's see what's going on with all these different athletes. We're not going to start with Serena Williams. Sorry. All right, Stephen Curry, basketball star. 0-degree Leo ascendant, and then Sun is in Pisces, conjunct the North Node, in the ninth house. So ninth house, still dealing with travel, but long distance travel, as opposed to third house, South Node, right? We have Jupiter and Venus in the 10th house. Venus in domicile, and that's quite good. Jupiter and Venus both benefics. Jupiter is often seen in sports because it represents the thighs, right? So people who are like runners, bicyclists, anyone who uses their thighs a lot, will have a very strong Jupiter. Here it's neutral, but we do see a sixth house Capricorn stellium with Mars exalted, Neptune, Saturn in domicile, and then Uranus, right? So that's going to be very, very competitive. Pluto has a wide opposition. Pluto and Scorpio has a wide opposition to Venus. So Mars is the MC Lord. Mars is in the sixth house, right? Mars conjunct Neptune. I think because the Mars and Saturn are so strong, this Neptune probably is just adding another element. Maybe he's very something about, I have no idea. Like, I'm not a sports fan. Like, I don't watch sports, but like maybe this Neptune makes him a bit more unpredictable, a bit more like mysterious on the court. Like people can't, guess what he's gonna do next. He's just like a ghost kind of thing. I don't know. Could be something there where the Neptune is making, adding another element. People don't see what he's doing because Neptune is invisible, right? But North Node conjunct the Sun also shows great ambitions for worldliness and success and all that. And it's ninth house. I don't know if he played college basketball, but that would be something, obviously. Let's see. So Moon's in the seventh, obviously. So he's got sixth, seventh, eighth, very well represented. Mercury and Aquarius in the eighth. And the eighth house is just obviously very dominant, and so is Pluto, right? Just so, like, if there's any eighth house may not seek out competition, but if there's competition, they will definitely want to destroy that competition because they will always want the upper hand, right? So it's very, very powerful for any sort of competitive field, as well as the sixth house. Sixth house seeks out competition. They seek out fights in the sixth house often. Eighth house is just about maintaining the dominance. Usually. Obviously, some criminals, you can see criminal activity here. So that is more aggressive, proactive, seeking out, but it's for gain. Whereas the sixth house is more just about winning. Chiron is square the nodes, and I have no idea how that would I'm not Chiron I would not associate with sports. It's much more creative and high-minded. Anyway, that's gonna be something. Something about him that relates to that. Check out the dignities. Pluto is the only retro planet. Everything's fast. And probably that's good for a basketball player, although some station planets would also be good. Station nodes, I don't know that they do that much. Venus and Saturn in domicile. And Mars exalted. So Venus ruling the 4th and the 11th. Mars ruling the 10th. So 11th for team, 4th for, probably early on, he knew what he was going to do, right? Childhood, playing basketball. Mars ruling the 5th house, cusp. Saturn ruling the 7th. It's not really ruling the cusp, but most of the 6th house and 7th, 6th, 7th. So, yeah, that's all. That all makes sense. Let's keep moving. Lance Armstrong. Obviously not I don't know if bicycling is considered a sport. It's an athletic. He's an athlete, right? Whatever. Okay. Scorpio rising. Neptune conjunct Jupiter, 0 degrees in Sag. And we know about his drugs, right? No, he didn't win. Wasn't taking any drugs to win those races. Yes, he was. And Jupiter is expanding the Neptune, which is the Neptune is the drugs and alcohol, especially in Sag. Sag is wild. Sag loves to party. 0 degrees. Sag is also long distance, right? Biking. Jupiter is expanding this Neptune. So this is really very much also making it successful because Jupiter's in domicile in Sagittarius. And Neptune is said to be good in Sag. So even though he took those drugs, he still won races. Most people, when they take drugs, they can't race at all. Right? He just sit on the couch. And he's winning the Tour de France on drugs. So good for him. His Saturn is stationary in the 7th house in Gemini. That's excellent. That's legendary because Saturn is the planet of discipline, of hard work, of endurance, of long lasting. It's in the 7th house, so it's dealing with relationships with other people, with with other people, and it's stationary. It's in Gemini, right? So here we have short distance travel, long distance travel. So travel is very strong in this axis. We got a Jupiter in domicile at 0 degrees with Saturn, with Neptune also in good dignity in Sagittarius. They say it's exalted here, whether it is or it isn't. It still seems to resonate. And then Saturn, which it has triplicity. I have a little sheet. I have a little cheat sheet because I actually don't like to memorize things. I like to keep my mind empty. It helps me think better. But Saturn is the first day triplicity lord. In any case. But it's stationary, and that's way more important. The stationary trumps the sign. The fact that it's stationary. And then he's got North Node conjunct Mars, which, Mars is physicality. Aquarius is very very advanced and technological and scientific and a lot of things, right? But North Node conjunct Mars is very physical. They're really obsessed about physicality. So he's got he's got multiple things going on that really point to very strong athleticism. 3rd house, short distance travel. Mars in Aquarius, I could see him being very, very tricky, very smart about the things that he's doing to win races. Yes, he took drugs, but nobody found out. That's smart. That's clever. It may not be intelligent, but it's clever, right? He got away with it. And that's probably helping, the Aquarius is probably helping out with that, making him just very, it's also trying the Saturn. So that's quite good. And then a Virgo stellium with Mercury, Moon, Sun, Pluto. Virgo, very aggressive and aggressively competitive. Right. Virgo can be very service oriented too, obviously, but it certainly can be competitive. And then he's got Uranus trine Mars, making him very fast. Uranus co-rules Aquarius, so that's adding a lot of dignity. Venus is in Libra, so that's dignifying this Uranus. Uranus is directly opposite Chiron. That's a generational aspect, happens to a lot of us, including myself, including a lot of you, I'm sure. So that's just normal. Normal generational traumatic wounds. It's like we're all traumatized to some extent just by virtue of being born in this civilization, and we see it with Uranus opposite Chiron, right? Uranus, one of the things Uranus represents is trauma. Chiron is pains, wounds, rejection, and a lot of other things, weirdness, creativity, mysticism, shamanism, teacher, astrologer. Any case. Yeah. Jupiter, let's see. Jupiter's ruling the 4th and the 2nd. It's here. Saturn. So by the 4th, it's probably like, okay, from a young age, he was interested in, well, Jupiter's in Sag. So he was probably interested in biking. That could go a lot of different ways, but biking and drugs, right? What a combination. Yeah. Saturn's ruling the 3rd in Gemini, 3rd lord in Gemini. So it's very strong for Gemini, which is, again, short distance travel, racing, right? One of the things you can say. Not necessarily racing, but short distance travel, definitely. Okay. Mars ruling the 6th house and the 5th, right? North node, conjunct Mars in the 3rd. 6th in the 3rd, we also saw for fighters, right? Because fighting is going into the hands. But in this case, it's going into the thighs. Jupiter and Sag. Viking. Saturn station. Again, station trumps everything. If there's a planet station, it's epic. It's legendary. It's, that's a fantastically powerful planet when it's stationed. Doesn't matter the sign. I mean, the sign matters, of course, always matters, but the fact that it's stationed will trump the sign. Bjorn Borg. He's a cyborg. No, I'm just kidding. He's a tennis player. Borg went on to win the greatest prize in tennis, Wimbledon, 5 consecutive times before his retirement. Borg was the first tennis player to receive enormous attention from female fans. He made an unsuccessful comeback in 1991. Okay. So, tennis player. Let's see. Aquarius rising with Chiron right on the ascendant, 2 degrees in the 12th house. But so he's probably very weird. Probably very much like a Borg. Bjorn Borg. Cyborg. Right. He's kind of weird. Chiron and Aquarius. Aquarius rising, definitely. Right. Uranus is in the 6th. That's a co-ascendant lord, along with Saturn and Scorpio in the 9th house, 10th whole sign house. So obviously, if we take Uranus and Saturn would be the more physical representation of him. Uranus would be the more energetic. So energetically, he's going into the 6th house, which is competition. And then the 9th quadrant, but 10th whole sign house, and Scorpio as well. Scorpio is very dominant. 9th house, travel, I guess, like that doesn't really make sense, I guess, not for this, but running around, that's more 3rd house, I think. 10th whole sign house definitely makes sense. Yeah. I don't know, maybe he's very philosophical, but definitely scorpionic. North node in the still 9th quadrant, but Sagittarius and widely conjunct the MC. MC Lord Jupiter is conjunct Pluto in the 7th. So that's very obsessive in Leo. So Jupiter conjunct Pluto generally is kind of like megalomania. Their philosophy of life is geared towards their own personal gain, right? Because Pluto, like Scorpio, like the 8th house, is about domination, control, psychology, right? There's a square to Saturn, Ascendant Lord and MC Lord are squared. So he's probably very intense, right? And just obsessed, literally obsessed with achievement, with, over others competitively. And that's his whole philosophy of life, like how to win, how to be better. And that it's driven by the square. Squares make you work hard. They're a driving force. You got exalted moon in Taurus, Mercury in Gemini, 0-degree station, South Node, Sun, Gemini, 3rd house, right? Moving to the 4th, but 3rd. The Mercury, 0 degrees Gemini station, skills of the hands, right? That's excellent. That's really, really where we're seeing, and it's conjunct South Node, where we're seeing the mastery, plus the Jupiter conjunct Pluto in the 7th in Leo. So ego, pride, obsessive, drive, obsession. The square is very intense, very, very intense. Mercury station, that's fantastic. See, it's moving. It's already retrograded, but it's moving at 1 degree, 47. And that is almost as slow as Pluto. It's about the same as Chiron, faster than Uranus. So it's important to get an idea to compare, like, what weight class are, your planets hitting in? Are they hitting above their weight class? Meaning, are they slow? Are they slow like Pluto? Are they slow like Neptune? Are they slow like Uranus? Are they slow like Saturn? Right? You can compare. Moon gets even more points than Mercury, but that's arbitrary. I take these lightly, but Moon, Venus have a mutual reception. So Moon, Venus, yes. Moon and Venus, Moon exalted in Venus sign, Venus in Moon sign. And that is 3rd and 5th Lord. So skills of the hand, short distance travel, 5th, fun and games, sports. So it's all right here, very clear, very obvious. Mars not playing a huge role in this. I mean, Mars is always physicality, but Mars in Pisces is fine. It's not bad, but it's doesn't have extra points. But there is a square to Mercury, and so there's that more of that aggressive fighting drive there. And Mercury is playing a role. Remember, Mercury rules Gemini, Gemini rules hands. So for any hands, so Mercury plays a strong role. It's not just Mars, right? Mars is physicality overall. Mercury is skills of the hands. Keep going. Tom Brady. North Node conjunct Pluto on the ascendant. Libra rising. North Node exactly conjunct the ascendant. Pluto. North Node conjunct Pluto. It's that growing, becoming right. Pluto conjunct Jupiter in the last one. North Node conjunct Pluto, this one. North Node is what grows in our life. It's where we're meant to focus and really develop. He's supposed to, so for Tom Brady, he has to develop Pluto, which is his obsessiveness, his psychology, his strategy. Pluto is the planet of strategy. You see this in like military generals, war strategists, chess masters, right? Because they're psychologizing, they're strategizing, they're plotting, they're figuring out how to win. It's not just like brute force, like, oh, just forget the plan, let's just go and punching, that doesn't work with Pluto. Pluto's like, okay, how are we going to really master this game? And we're going to think about it. Pluto's a mental planet. Mars is a physical planet. Mars is the physical side of Scorpio. Pluto is the mental side of Scorpio. Pluto is extremely intelligent and powerful, right? In manipulation, in psychology, in understanding you better than you understand you. That's a real power. That's a real strength. When you're like, I know you better than you know yourself. Therefore, you're putty in my hands. I got you twisted around my little finger. I'm going to manipulate you and control you. I'm going to dominate you. That's Pluto, right? So he's a quarterback. He has to have a strong Pluto. He has to master the whole game, right? He has to be the puppet master, and that's why he is Tom Brady. That's why he won. That's why he won a lot as a quarterback, and that's why he's so celebrated. Okay, Venus, the ascendant, Venus in Cancer in the 9th house. Okay. Widely conjunct Jupiter. Jupiter's out of sign, but that's still Jupiter's in Gemini, so it's not great dignity, but for skills of the hands, again, that is good, right? Planets in poor dignity may not be good at everything, but they're good at one thing, and that's the sign that they're in, right? Mars in Gemini. Mars in Gemini is also very, very quick and like unpredictable. Sun and some so Moon's the MC Lord. That's in the 6th house. We see that a lot, right? MC Lord in the 6th house in Aries, South Node in Aries. Sports, very much so. Sun is dignified in Leo domicile, conjunct Saturn. Not such a great combination, but because the Sun is so strong, it's really okay. Now, Saturn is the helper, right? It's the co planet here because Sun is in a much stronger position, and it just adds a lot of structure and discipline and leadership qualities to their personality, to their sun sign. Mercury's in Virgo. That's excellent. 11th house. And this is Saturn's right on the 11th house cusp. So team player, team oriented, right? Let's see. Jupiter's ruling the 6th. That's in Gemini. Venus is ruling the 8th, 6th and 8th lord together. 1st and 8th and 6th. Jupiter's also ruling the 3rd. Skills of hands. And then Mars. So Mars ruling the 7th and the 2nd. It's in the 8th. 8th quadrant. Not so much the 8th whole sign house, but 8th quadrant anyway. But it's opposite Neptune. So somehow his physicality is becoming this is gonna make this sort of like Stephen Curry, where that Neptune is adding another dimension. It's also trying the Sun and Saturn. So something about this Neptune maybe makes him very intuitive. Maybe it makes him very unpredictable. Like nobody can see what he's gonna do next because Neptune is invisible, like hidden. There's something. It's in Sag, so that's good. There's something that this Neptune is going to add about, you know, his in his skills, his playing ability. So nothing is stationary. Neptune is retro. It's pretty slow. Chiron is slow. Let's check that. Sun and Mercury. So Neptune retrograde is going to think differently. They're deep intermittent, not that slow. Chiron is quite slow for Chiron. Where's Chiron? Yeah, I mean, but anyway, not sure how Chiron really relates to sports very much, but this is very strong here. North Node, North Node, Pluto, ascendant for being a real because he's a quarterback. So Pluto for the strategy, and then the trine to Mars and with Sun right in the middle. That's going to be very strong as well. And then Moon in the 6th as the MC Lord. Jupiter and Venus still, in proximity. That's going to be good. Excessive, but good. Show. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, South Node, you could look South Node Moon. That's a wide conjunction, but still shows a total familiarity with competition. Moon and Aries, aggressive competition in the 6th. Let's look at Kobe Bryant. For some reason, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I always listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been hearing a lot about Kobe Bryant, just like absolutely how so devoted to his game, to his skill, to be the best, the absolute best, that he would get up at 3:30 in the morning. I think probably he got up earlier. He was practicing at 3:30 a.m. Forget it. I'm not doing I've never done that. He's practicing at 3:30 in the morning. Right. And he's, every other basketball player is practicing twice a day. He's practicing 3 times a day. That's why he was the best when he was alive. I'm not saying he was the best basketball player ever. I mean, Jordan is widely considered the best, but Kobe is considered one of the best. But here we go. I mean, right here. Mars, Pluto, Venus. And you might not think Venus is going to play much of a role here. It does. It absolutely does, because not only is it in Libra, but Mars and Venus together creates excellent physicality. The conjunction probably is the most it's one of the best physical combinations, right? I've seen Mars and Jupiter work really well together, but Mars and Venus always, it's a real tremendous asset to have for if you want to be like physically strong and like just have a beautiful, well-functioning body, because Mars and Venus are the male-female personal planets, right? They're on both sides of the Earth, Venus, Mars, right? So they're the male-female, yin-yang, masculine, feminine, opposites complement each other, right? Opposites attract. And then Pluto, obsession, getting up 3:30 a.m. training. Yeah, Mars is in Libra. Mars does not do excellent in Libra, but Venus does. Venus is in domicile, and Mars conjunct Pluto, conjunct Venus. That's an excellent combination for just being physically obsessed. Physically obsessed. And it's like he mastered it, right? Ninth house. 10th whole sign house, 9th quadrant. So it's like he has a master's degree in being totally obsessed with training. That's 9th house, right? North Node in Virgo. Virgo works hard. Sun and Saturn in Virgo. We just saw that with Tom Brady. Sun, Saturn. Discipline. These people, if they're not overwhelmed by Saturn, which can be sometimes fear, can run some of these people. If they don't have confidence in other areas, they become too afraid, and Saturn can limit a person. But if you can overcome the fear of Saturn and be a bit more mature like Saturn wants you to be, responsible, adult, grown up, then you can embody what Saturn represents, which is just like absolute mastery, discipline, hard work, responsibility, maturity, being a boss, being a leader, being an authority. In Virgo, it seems to work quite well, right? Because Virgo is all about a lot of the same things that Saturn is. Hard work, discipline, orderliness. It lends itself well to all that. North Node is also here. And it's the 8th house. 8th house. Dominating, fighting, winning, being on top. Jupiter's in Cancer in the 7th. Saturn's also the ascendant lord. And so if the ascendant lord and the sun are united, then the person is not divided. That's a good sign. So look to 3 things. to see like is how divided is the person, right? Do their main planet, do the big three get along or not? Like sun, ascendant lord, and moon, right? And these are trine by signs, so he's not divided in himself, right? He's all focused, and that's excellent, right? Because if you're like playing basketball, but you're like, damn, I really wish I was at home painting, and then you go home painting, you're like, damn, I really need to go play basketball. You're divided. Like that's how good are you going to be at either one? You might be like, a little bit good at painting, a little bit good at basketball, but you're not going to be really great at either. So it's really helpful if your main planets are united. That's why stelliums can be very, very powerful for making somebody strong. But also trines, sextiles, even squares. It all depends, right? So Jupiter's in the seventh in Cancer, so it's exalted in Cancer. Jupiter's still a very physical planet, rules the thighs. So it's ruling the 12th and the 3rd, so short distance travel. South node in Pisces, third lord, third cusp. 12th and the 7th. I'm not sure about that, but another thing to look at is this Pluto is semi-square the sun, and by conjunction Saturn, which is the ascendant lord. So he died young, and a lot of people think it was foul play. We do know he died in a helicopter accident, but a lot of people say it was foul play. So he may have been murdered. Pluto square Sun and Saturn, semi-square. And Sun is the 8th lord. It's in the 8th house. Ascendant lord conjunct the 8th lord. So these are both indications that he could have an early life, a short life, right? Early demise. And then Moon is conjunct Chiron in the 4th. So I don't know what's going on with his mother, but it's opposite Uranus in Scorpio in the 10th house. So Moon so Uranus and Scorpio can represent sudden death. It's opposite his Moon in the 4th. I don't know. Maybe he's lost his mother, but this is also can point to something very mentally and physically devastating. Some kind of trauma or shock, sudden event, sudden death, unfortunately. Yeah. Let's see. Mercury's ruling the 6th. That's in the 8th. It's in Leo, retrograde. It's a very not only competitive, but a lot of ego in this Mercury. Because of Leo. Oh, sorry. Wrong thing. The Mercury's retro. The planet's out of bounds. Neptune retro, very slow. Chiron retro, quite slow. Yeah, 4 days from station, Neptune. So Neptune is very, very slow. It's conjunct the 12th, which is 12th house cusp in Sag. That's considered a spiritual placement, and maybe he had some spiritual wisdom which allowed him to just perform at the the 0.001% range of people that made him the best. That could be. He could have had a very high level, a certain connection, spiritual connection that just allowed him to endure what other people couldn't, to go beyond. Because this is much more, this is not tangible. This is not physical. It's Neptune and Sag conjunct the 12th house cusp. It's very ethereal, something even psychic or intuitive about it. Connected to spiritual realms. It is sextile to Pluto. It is sextile the Venus, Pluto, Mars. Also, Uranus in the 10th house is going to be very shocking publicly. So public wow and public awe. Like the public are really going to be amazed by this guy because he's got Uranus and Scorpio. Uranus and Scorpio is an excellent dignity here. In the 10th house. Very shocking. Independent. He's not going to do what other people do. He's going to do his own thing. Wake up at 3:30 and start practicing. And the basics, too. I also heard this about Kobe Bryant. He never got tired of practicing the basics. And this is why I keep my chart so simple. Because it's basic. This is like 99.9% of astrology. Everything else you're going to add, it's like, who cares, right? It's like hardly doing anything. And if you haven't mastered this, you're just confusing yourself. This is it's mumbo jumbo once you start adding in all the asteroids and you're like, oh, I wonder what this means. Oh. Like, don't bother, because you really have to master the basics before you mess around with any of that. And most people, 99.999% of the people haven't mastered the basics. I haven't mastered the basics. That's why I'm still learning the basics, but that's the way it goes. Like, you should, this is the norm. This is the standard. This is the foundation. Like, you don't get away from this. You never outgrow this. I mean, so all the time I see noobs with like the whole chart's like filled with asteroids. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Where are my problems? Like, you're never gonna figure it out when you have overloading your chart like that. You're not gonna see anything, right? I keep it simple, and he kept it simple, and that's really, really important. It's a really important lesson for anything. Stick to the basics. Don't get complicated. Master the basics, and once you master the basics, master them more, right? And then once you master them more, master them even more. Then you'll be the best. Novak Djokovic. Now okay, there's no blur about him, but he's Novak's Djokovic because he's a tennis champion and he wouldn't take the clutch shot, right? For good reason. He's a smart man because that kills people. Yeah, I'm not gonna beat around the bush with that one. All right. Capricorn rising. Capricorn risings are very, very disciplined, hardworking. And his ascendant lord is Saturn. It's in Sagittarius. In the 11th house, 12th whole sign house, but 11th quadrant. So that's interesting, which is groups, networks, team. So, but what's really interesting, if you take it into context with his whole awareness of and insistence on not jabbing himself with the jibber jabber. 11th house is very idealistic and very aware and awake and socially minded. So he probably was paying attention with his ascendant lord in the 11th house. He's like, listen, I've been doing my research. Well, research is 8th house, but 11th house is like being very awake and aware to what is going on in the world, right? So he's paying attention, and that's why he didn't want to. I have my moon in the 11th. I totally get that. Right. Uranus is on the 12th house cusp. Let's see here. What's going on? So Pluto is conjunct the MC. Very strategic and obsessive and psychological and powerful and wanting domination as far as his public career goes. Since Scorpio's Mars in Cancer. Unbelievable. Cancer. In the 6th house, though. So 6th house, 1 degree, Mars in Cancer. Interesting. But Mercury's in Gemini, more importantly, because tennis is a skill of the hands, right? And so Mars can be in Cancer if Mercury's in Gemini. Mercury's in Gemini conjunct Chiron, no less. Opposite Saturn, ascendant lord Saturn, right? That's really important because not only is this competitive, it is tying his ascendant lord to Mercury and Gemini and Chiron. So Chiron's a little weird, but Chiron is evolved. Well, Chiron has a very evolved expression. Chiron can be evolved. Chiron is also a bit of a reject, and he did experience that with the whole Vex thing. Like people were hating on him. They were bad mouthing him. He was like getting kicked out of everything. That's very Chironic rejection. So he definitely experienced a lot of that Chiron. Recently, we saw Sun's in Gemini, Venus in domicile. So Sun's in the 5th house in Gemini. Or well, 4th quadrant, we conjunct the 5th cusp, Mercury, Chiron in the 5th house, and then Mars in Cancer in the 6th. So he's probably, this Mars in Cancer in the 6th house, I bet it's pretty worked up when things don't go his way. Like he's probably very emotional, angry, right? Gets pissed off when he loses. The 6th house, Mars in Cancer. Cancer does not hold Mars well, so Mars is very all over the place, right? Cancer just is not the right energy to contain all this energy from Mars. So Mars just becomes loose and off the handle and just, can do anything like violence or, sex, stuff like that. Being overly emotional, ruled by emotions. North Node is conjunct Moon and Jupiter in Aries in the 3rd house, right? 3rd house bringing that Gemini vibe, but Aries as well for the aggression, the physicality, the winningness. Aries is all about being first, being number one, coming out on top. Yeah, and like I said before, the difference between like Aries and Scorpio, both Mars ruled. Aries just about himself. Aries just wants to win. Aries just wants to be number one. Scorpio literally wants to dominate. It's a different psychology. It's a different mindset. For Aries, it's about itself, glorifying itself, being number one. With Scorpio, it's about being on top of the other person, like sitting on them and just be like, don't you dare move. I own you. Right. The North Node, Jupiter, Moon. Jupiter is obviously very physical. Moon can be physical as well. Moon can rule a quality of the body. It has a very physical side to it. It also has mental, emotional. But 3rd house, like I said. And then Moon is 7th Lord in the 3rd. Jupiter, right? So, opposition, the two sides in tennis, it's going into the 3rd. So short distance travel, skills of the hand. Jupiter exalted in Cancer. So that's quite good. Moon and Jupiter, always very good. Jupiter ruling the 11th and 12th. And 3rd whole sign house. So 11th, especially for that awareness, right? North Node, Jupiter. Why did he refuse the vax while other people were not refusing it? Because of this awareness, this 11th house. And then Ascendant Lord Saturn is widely conjunct Uranus, and that's strongly going to influence it as well to the same degree. Also, Saturn is retrograde and Uranus is retrograde and Neptune's retrograde. So he's having a lot of Pluto's retrograde. So he's getting a lot of retrogrades that allow him to resist. That's the real power of retrogrades. They allow the person to resist whatever in the relative to everything about the planet. You have to look at the sign, the placement, the aspects, but it's creating resistance. Saturn resists the law and authorities, right? Uranus does the same, but to even bigger extent. It's even more rebellious. Neptune will create a different kind of a different thinking, a different way of thinking and imagining. Pluto will create an alternate psychology. Like psychologically, they're going to be very resistant. You can see here, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all retrograde. So his higher mind is very resistant, right? When Mercury is retrograde, it's sort of like these people become more belligerent. Depends on how personal it is. I mean, Mercury is a personal planet, but is it conjunct the is it the ascendant lord? Is it conjunct the sun? Is the sun or moon in the sign of Mercury? Are they conjunct Mercury? Are they tightly aspecting Mercury? Right? Is Mercury on the ascendant? Then the person will be very belligerent. But even if it's not, it depends how close it is. But it definitely makes and by belligerent, it's sort of like you say something and automatically their default response is like, no, it's not. Nuh-uh. No, you're wrong. It's different. I don't believe you. Right? That's Mercury. But when the outer planets are retrograde, Mercury retrograde might go along with somebody like with like the law, right? You know, they'll disagree with you, but they might go along with the law. Whereas Saturn retrograde and Uranus retrograde, not going to go along with the law. And Neptune and Pluto, that's going to be even more resistance in a deeper way, in the deeper mind, the way they think, their psychology and their imagination. Mars and Moon have a mutual reception here, and that's pretty close by degree. So, and that's sixth and third, right? And that's the fighters aspect too. Sixth and third lord. So a lot of sports and athletes have the sixth and third lord interchanging, or one and the other. Let's go to Roger Federer. Actually, I don't even know who Roger Federer is. All right. Swiss male tennis professional, currently ranked number 1. Many experts and his own peers believe Federer may eventually prove to be the greatest player in history. Okay. So another tennis player. I tried to get a variety of people. So, and I generally pick the more well-known ones. Just more interesting. All right. So Virgo ascendant with Venus in the first house, pretty close to the ascendant. Venus is debilitated. Saturn and conjunct Jupiter in Libra in the second, where Saturn is exalted. So that's in good dignity there. And let's see. Mercury is the ascendant lord. Mercury's conjunct Sun. It's combust. Ascendant lord is combust the Sun, but united with the Sun. So very focused. In Leo, in the 12th house. So that's interesting. We're seeing that. The 12th house, something well, we just saw, well, 11th house we saw recently. Mercury is also the MC Lord. So what's going on here? As you can tell, I don't have these charts mastered. I looked at them. I didn't look at all of them. I don't think I've looked very much at this. North Node is in Leo, Mars is in Cancer. I'm just trying to understand the chart. So moon's in Scorpio with Uranus in the 3rd house. Right. So that's very telling. Moon is ruling the 11th house, dispositing Mars. So Mars and Moon have a mutual reception. So that's actually really important. 3 and 11. 3rd and 11th house. Clearly. Switcheroo. That's 11th house is groups and networks, but also career success. I don't really think of it in terms of sports very much. It's very mental, ideological, but it is Mars, and that does dignify Mars and Moon, and they're both in poor dignity here. But Moon conjunct Uranus is going to be very well, mentally, it makes them very radical. It makes the mind, it could be very intuitive, but also kind of like sharp, aggressive, can be funny. In Scorpio, probably not as much funny, but like deep and intense. It's also opposite Chiron, the 3rd house. South Node in Aquarius, 5th house. 6th Lord, Saturn conjunct Jupiter. Pluto in the 2nd. Jupiter is the 7th lord. So 5th, 6th, and 7th are conjunct in the 2nd. And then ascendant lord in the 12th. So there's something foreign, something about the 12th house that has to do with his career. I kind of don't know. I haven't really thought about it. So Neptune is retro and it seems quite slow. Uranus seems quite slow. Everything's direct. Let's see. Unless this chart is wrong. No, it's not really that slow. Uranus is very slow. So Uranus is very potent. So this mutual reception between Mars and Moon with 3rd house, especially because 3rd house is much more physical than the 11th house. But 11th house is very ideological and very smart. So I wonder if he was like somehow using his intellect to win games. Because this is potentially quite brilliant. So I don't know about that, but maybe. Let's see what else. Pluto, sextile Neptune, in conjunct Chiron with the Yod to Chiron. The Chiron again does not feel very physical to me. But I think it's this Jupiter Saturn in the 2nd, although I'm not really sure. You do see second, it's in the, I mean, yeah, it's conjunct the 2nd cusp. We do see it sometimes, not very often. But and then the 2nd lord is in the 1st. But 2nd is mouth and speech and voice. Right? Pluto's in the 2nd. It's also values. So we're bringing in a sense of like values. What he values. He values competition. He values sports and competition. 5th, 6th, 7th. But this Moon conjunct Uranus with the mutual reception between Mars and Moon, that makes really a lot of sense because it's making very quick. It's in the 3rd house. It's Uranus is playing into it. Uranus is now connecting to Mars, his physicality. Right. Uranus in Scorpio is just very, very intense. It's probably not very good for his mental health. But and Sun is also widely square Moon, so that's interesting. I'm not sure about this 12th house, how it relates to somebody like Roger Federer. I don't know enough about him. Maybe he moved. I mean, he's got his North Node in Leo. Leo's very proud, and likes to win. So, I mean, there's that. Any case, very interesting. You know, exalted Saturn ruling the 6th, I think 5th and 6th is also very telling. And Jupiter brings success. So success from 5th and 6th house. And 7th. And South Node is in the 5th, 6th whole sign house. So anyway, let's keep going. Steffi Graf. I think there's a lot of tennis players, unfortunately. So a tennis sensation from age 13. So from a young age, 4th house. 2nd youngest player in history to hold the ranking. She moved quickly to the top of her game, became the top player in the world. Okay. Big tennis star. All right. Gemini ascendant with Sun, Moon, Mercury in Gemini. So very strong Gemini energy. Skills of the hands, short distance travel. 4th house, Virgo stellium. So again, Mercury ruled. Mercury's in Gemini in the 12th, but first whole sign house. And fourth house for early childhood. Virgo, hard work. South node, Pluto, obsessive. Jupiter's not great in Virgo, but for hard work and practice, and it's also conjunct Uranus. That's very strong. Fourth house. But then strong, and Mars and Sag and Neptune in Scorpio in the 6th. MC is in Aquarius. So Saturn conjunct Venus in the 11th house, but moving into the 12th house cusp. Pretty much still 11th, because 11th whole sign, no, 12th whole sign house. Sorry. 11th moving into the 12th. But all right, so Saturn's the MC Lord, is conjunct Venus, which is in good dignity. So that will help Saturn. Venus ruling the 12th and the 5th. So 5th for sports. And then Saturn and Venus is generally good for being restrictive with like habits and indulgence. Right? These are not the type to overindulge in food or drink or sex or anything like that. And any of the Venusian indulgences, they're going to be much more reserved, conservative. Let's check the dignities. The moon is way out of bounds. Where's the moon? The moon's in Gemini, conjunct the sun. So sun, moon, Gemini. Sun, moon, ascendant, all in Gemini, along with Mercury. It's amazing. Mars is retro. Mercury's very slow, too. This is a very potent Mercury. It's in Gemini. It's very slow. So great skills of the hands. And it's in the 12th house. So like something, subconscious, right? It's just something that's very intuitive. She doesn't have to think about it. It's automatic. Mars is retro. Neptune's retro. Mars retro can be a bit more aggressive and competitive and resistant to outside pressure, whatnot. The Mars retrograde might be the one to repeat things over and over and over again because of that retrograde kind of doubting, questioning quality. They're gonna physically repeat, practice things over and over and over again. So the ascendant is square the nodes, and Pluto is square the sun. So she's very, very driven, right? Very obsessively driven, hard work. Neptune is in conjunct the ascendant, pretty much exact. Neptune in Scorpio, retrograde. Definitely has something to do with imagination, like dark imagination, like a fearful quality. Doubtful, aggressive, fearful, something like that. All right, let's keep going. Florence Griffith-Joyner. Again, there's this 12th house activity. And so come to think of it, with the 12th house, this is where we're not really thinking. This is where we're doing without thinking. Like when you're just moving and you don't know, you're not using your conscious brain to do it. You're just doing it. That's very much a 12th house thing. So her moon is conjunct Pluto on the 12th in Virgo. So that's going to be very obsessive, but also deeply subconscious kind of motivations or actions. North node's in Virgo at the anaretic degree, but with the North node, it means it just moved into Virgo. It wasn't Libra. But it's close to the ascendant. So that's interesting. So Florence Griffith-Joyner, she was Flojo. I remember when she was in the Olympics. Brilliant sprinter, the fastest woman in the world, not particularly favored as a potential gold medal winner. I don't know why. Amazed her country when she broke the world record at the U.S. trials prior to the 1988 Olympics. She won 3 gold medals. Her record remains unbroken, and she has been criticized for running too fast. And rivals imply she used performance-enhancing drugs, an accusation she always has strongly denied. Let's look into that. Did she use drugs or not? Well, her Venus is conjunct Neptune in the 2nd house. 2nd house is maybe. She likes drugs. Venus conjunct Neptune. Hey, I'm just reading the chart. Sextile Saturn. So she's extremely disciplined. Saturn and Capricorn in the 4th house. So from an early child, she was raised very it's not from her biography. I'm just saying Saturn and Capricorn in the 4th shows parents raised her with a lot of discipline, which you need to have in order to succeed at sports and lots of things in life. Right? Sagittarius in the 3rd house, stellium, Sun, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury. 3rd house, short distance travel, running. All right, Jupiter ruling the 6th, 6th in the 3rd. You see that again and again and again. Jupiter's in domicile, Sagittarius. Sag, thighs, big old thighs for running. It's important. Let's see here. Venus is the ascendant lord. The ascendant lord conjunct Neptune. You know what? She might have taken the Lance Armstrong approach. She might have. Not saying she didn't work hard. Lance Armstrong worked his butt off too, but they both love sports and drugs. In Scorpio, Neptune in Scorpio, conjunct Venus, ascendant lord in the 2nd house. I think she did drugs. I'm just saying, like, I think she did drugs. Moon conjunct Pluto, definitely she has a destructive in the 12th quality to her. Moon is ruling, it's the MC Lord, right? Again, that's really interesting. And here I'm learning something new. It's why I do this. Always going to learn something new. That's not like, oh my gosh, I've seen everything. You know, maybe when I'm 80 or 90. But 12th house. MC Lord in the 12th house can go into sports and athletics. Why is that? Number one, they get famous. 12th house. 12th house is not fame, but it is pretenses, acting, alter ego, right? So they get to be a star and they get to have their name and fame and lights and color. That's very 12th house because it's that pretentious make-believe fantasy realm. It's also the realm of the subconscious mind where somebody doesn't even know why they're doing things and yet they're doing it. And she's got Pluto, right? But not Pluto alone, conjunct Moon. Moon's the MC Lord. So very obsessed with her career, but also subconscious. And Saturn is trine the Moon and Pluto. So using that discipline and that obsession together, and those are both sextile Neptune and by extension Venus ascendant Lord. She never got caught. Secret. Scorpio. And you know what? I don't know how many other astrologers looked at her chart, but I might be the only one in the world to say Florence Griffith-Joyner probably did drugs. But I mean, no, I'll take that back because people are guessing, but I'm using astrology to say probably she did. Probably she did. Sun is square the nodes. So Sun is fame, recognition, ego, pride, worldliness, worldly success. So she wanted to win, right? She had to win. It was square the nodes. Square is like you cannot sleep. You cannot. A square is like like a thorn in your bed and you're trying to sleep. You're not gonna get to sleep. Forget it. She's got a T square to her sun. This square is agitated. This sun is agitated. It wants to win. It's not gonna be passive. It's gonna be aggressive. It's gonna work hard at winning. Third house, Jupiter, running, Mars, Jupiter, and Sag. You know who else has this? Andrew Tate, Mars, Jupiter, and Sag. And he was a kickboxer. Thighs. Alrighty. What else can I say? Right, Jupiter's the 6th lord, Venus is 8th lord. Boom. 8th lord in Scorpio, and the 2nd with Neptune. I'm pretty sure she did drugs to win. All right. She's too fast. All right. LeBron James. Not a very likable basketball player, but a very successful one. Whiny crybaby. Pathetic liberal. Chinese butt kisser. All right. Gemini ascendant. Mercury conjunct Uranus and Sag in the 6th. Right? Uranus for that lightning speed. Uranus is lightning speed. And ascendant Lord Mercury. It's his body. He is fast. He is competitive. Sagittarius. He likes to run. South node Saturn. He's disciplined. Scorpio. A very deep, intense discipline of Saturn. 6th house. Pluto in the 5th in Scorpio. Fun and games are very obsessive. They're not fun and games for him. It's trine Mars. Mars conjunct MC. It's in Pisces. So what? We don't just look at Mars. But Pluto, trine Mars, look at that trine's excellent. Makes him very obsessive with his Mars. MC Lord, Jupiter in Capricorn in the 8th. MC Lord in the 8th. Dominant in Capricorn. Jupiter in Capricorn is not. It's not in good dignity. It is debilitated, but Jupiter in Capricorn wants to win. Doesn't mean it's not going to do anything. It's going to do stuff. It wants to win, and it's going to work hard. It's Capricorn, and Jupiter is very physical too. Sun conjunct Neptune. With his Mars and Pisces and the Sun conjunct Neptune, no wonder he's a whiny liberal crybaby. I mean, Neptune, as much as I love Neptune, a lower expression is like this, just like dumb liberalism, like brainless liberalism, like where you just don't think anything. You're just like, oh, let's give away everything to the Ukraine and the Mexican and like all the foreigners and everything. You're dumb. Just shut up. Stop talking. Moon is in Aries. That's always very aggressive. And it's trine is ascendant Lord in Uranus. So that's good. For competitiveness, for speed, all that. North node in Taurus, 12th house. Moon's in the 11th house, so teamwork, team player. He's obviously very competitive. 6th, 7th, 8th house. It's all about competition. And then the 5th house has Pluto and Scorpio. So deeply intense, obsessive. Pluto is in conjunct Chiron, and Chiron square Mars. And so this is not very good for Chiron being in the 12th house. So there's some like rejection complex that he has going on, because Chiron with such bad aspects in the 12th, it affects his psychology, his subconscious mind. So there's something He feels wounded. He's kind of like victim oriented, especially with Mars and Pisces and Sun conjunct Neptune. Even though it's in Capricorn, it's a bit of both. Like he's very Capricornian leadership, disciplined, South Node Saturn, but also kind of whiny crybaby. Mercury's a little bit slow. Everything's direct. Chiron's the only thing retro. See, this kind of person has no resistance. That's why, if somebody like his boss or, somebody's like, you have to lick Chinese boots, he's going to go and lick Chinese boots without any, he won't even question it. It's just be like, I'm going to lick all the Chinese boots. I'm going to lick their butts. I'm going to do what I'm told. I'm going to follow my superiors. That's all he's doing. He's just a sheep at the wheel. He's got Chiron retrograde, so that he's got some complex. He's got some rejection inferiority complex, but that's the only thing. And it's deep in his subconscious. So he's a little bit weird. And he tries to compensate by being too agreeable to the ones in power. Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time. Jordan, not Kobe. All right. Cancer ascendant. So Moon is his ascendant lord. Moon is clearly in the 6th house in Sagittarius. So he's very competitive, very emotionally competitive. Right? He's fueled by emotion because Moon in the 6th to compete. Sagittarius, those thighs for jumping. Got Mars and Leo in the 2nd, so he values physicality and pride and ego. Right? He was there's a story about Michael Jackson that like early on one of the coaches discouraged him, said, "Oh, you should give up. You can't be, you're not going to be a pro. You're going to something else." And because Mars in the 2nd, so Mars in the 2nd trines the 10th house and the 6th house, right? So it's still in play for sports, for competitiveness, because this is the value system, 2nd house. It's not physical, but it's what they value. Well, it's physical resources, right? So this wounded his pride tremendously. And so that in the sort of like when he won, like he gave this grand speech when he won his like however many NBA final championships, whatever, greatest basketball player of all time. He gave this epic speech that was so egotistical, and he's like going on and on about how this coach told him he couldn't be a pro player and all that. And that's this Mars in Leo retrograde in the 2nd house, right? Just so much pride, so much ego, aggressively. I have Mars in Leo. Mine's not retrograde, and that also is playing into it. That gives him even more resistance, more defiance, more willpower to prove his coach wrong and to prove everyone wrong and to prove everyone in the whole world that he's the greatest basketball player of all time. Right? That's his value system. Okay. Very competitive, very egotistical, very great. Jupiter is conjunct the MC in great dignity in Pisces, right? So again, those thighs, those big old legs to jump high and just fly in the air. Excellent. He could fly. But he's got Sun and Saturn in the 8th. And I would argue Mercury pretty much in the 8th, but conjunct the 8th house cause. So that 8th house, remember, the Scorpio 8th house vibe takes itself to be the winner of any competition. Already, it's a given. 8th house, Scorpio, Pluto thinks itself as the winner. It's a foregone conclusion. 8th house Scorpio vibe is I already won, but if I have to prove it, I'm gonna fucking prove it. Like, just fuck around, find out. That's kind of like Scorpio's motto. So yeah, very dominant, right? And Saturn obviously is in domicile in Aquarius, and that Saturn Sun conjunction gives him tremendous disciplines. 3rd time we've seen it, Sun Saturn. So we say Sun Saturn is a bad combination. Can be, makes a person very fearful and afraid and doubtful. But if the person can overcome that fear, it can be a great asset, right? Because you're bringing in tremendous discipline and structure and authority to the Sun side. All right. So now we have Sun, Moon, and Ascendant Lord. Moon is both Moon and Ascendant Lord in the 6th and 8th house. So very competitive. Venus and Capricorn in the 7th, South Node in the 7th, Mercury 7th, 8th, right? So let's see, Venus is ruling the 5th cusp, 7th. So sports, competition, others. And it's not really ruling a cusp here. Jupiter is ruling the 6th. Jupiter is conjunct the MC. So 6th Lord conjunct the MC. MC Lord conjunct the MC. Neptune would be the other MC Lord, the co-MC Lord. That's in Scorpio in the 5th house, dominating in sports. Saturn is square Neptune. That's going to be interesting. Going to create some sort of delusion, fantasy, perhaps. Yeah, I wonder if he ever dabbled in any sports enhancing drugs, steroids, or I don't know. Maybe not. I don't want to say definitively, but it does make me think about that. It's in Scorpio, which Scorpio can lend itself to that sort of thing as well. Certainly not above the law. It is above the law. Sorry. Backward. Scorpio is above the law. Scorpio feels like it's above the law, which is why criminality often happens with Scorpio, right? Literally above the law. 7th house of the law, Libra. Scorpio is above the law. Virgo is beneath the law. Virgo tends to follow the law. Scorpio tends to break the law. Neptune, drugs and alcohol. The square to Saturn, maybe because he just needs to get ahead so much. He's willing to do whatever it takes, including performance enhancing drugs. I don't know, right? But maybe. Also, this Mars is in conjunct Chiron, so that wound is very deep, that pride. And we see that again, like in the story I was saying. And then we get the 60s Uranus Neptune conjunction, a little wide, right? 63. I think it was exact in 65. And that's the 3rd house. Skills of the hands, short distance travel, obsessive, retrograde, right? Doing things differently. That's one of the things that set Michael Jordan apart from everyone else. Powerful and shocking, but he would do all kinds of moves that were very unexpected, and very fast. So that's very prominent here. And Moon square Ascendant Lord Moon in the 6th house square Pluto. So very obsessive and driven. And that's square Chiron. So really went deep, right? This wound. Mars in conjunct Chiron, Chiron opposite Pluto and Uranus, square Moon. So very wounded and wounded pride and ego. And then he becomes very obsessed with competition, maybe taking drugs. Yeah. And that's pretty much that. Team, Mars ruling the 11th house, so he values teams, groups, networks. So Michael Jordan's success was really fueled by pain and pride, wounded pride and ego and obsession. That's very interesting. And emotions. Mars is retro. So he's very defiant physically, right? Say he can't do it, he's gonna be like, "You're wrong. Watch me. Watch me." All right. So Neptune's retro and looks just about station. So Saturn and Jupiter are both in domicile. Neptune is just about station. So this Neptune is very potent, very powerful, and temptation to do performance enhancing drugs, maybe. I don't know. But it's Neptune and Scorpio retrograde in the 5th house. So his imagination is very deep and dark and powerful. So his vision for himself is going to be extremely important. So he imagines himself Scorpio winning, already having the title in sports. And he's very defiant, retrograde. No matter what anyone says, he's like, no, I already see myself as the champion. Scorpios is the heavyweight champion. All right, let's go. Keep going. Nancy Kerrigan. And forgive me, I should know this, but it was there was a whole scandal with Nancy Kerrigan, and I don't even know it. Like, she's like a ice skater, and there was this other woman, and I don't know. Her skating rival Tanya Harding was implicated in the attack. All right. Elegant ice skater was attacked by a stranger whilst training for the U.S. Winter Olympics. Her skating rival Tanya Harding was implicated in the attack from Clifford Chart Compendium compiled by Frank C. Clifford. Okay, so Tanya Harding attacked Nancy Kerrigan, a rival skater, I assume. Maybe there was probably more to it, and I just don't care. But for this purpose, I probably should have just read up about it. And I'm going to right now. Hold on. All right, sorry about that. This is too important, so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to read it because I don't want to butcher any of it. All right, 99. On January 6, 1994, the U.S. Figure Skating Championship in Detroit, as Kerrigan was walking through a corridor at the arena immediately after a practice session, she was bludgeoned on the right lower thigh with a police baton by an assailant, who was later apprehended and identified as Shane Stant. The assault was planned by rival Tanya Harding's ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly. Wow, very complicated. And co-conspirator Sean Eckhart. The conspirators' goal was to prevent Kerrigan from competing in both the National Championship and the Lillehammer Olympics, 94 Olympics. The attack's immediate aftermath was recorded on a TV camera and broadcast around the world. The initial footage showed the attendants helping Kerrigan as she grabbed at her knee, crying out, "Why, why, why?" Kerrigan was also seen being carried away by her father, Daniel. Harding won the championship with Michelle Kwan second. Although Kerrigan's injury forced her to withdraw from the U.S. Championship, her fellow skaters agreed she merited one of the 2 spots on the Olympic team. The USFSA chose to name her to the Olympic team rather than Kwan, who was sent to Lillehammer as an alternative in the event that Harding was removed from the team. Kerrigan recovered quickly from her injury and resumed her intensive training. She practiced by doing complete back-to-back double run-throughs or programs until she felt completely confident in her ability to compete under pressure. The fame she had acquired from the attack led to further opportunities. She was reported to have already signed endorsement contracts for $9.5 million before the Olympics began. Harding denied any involvement in the planning of the attack, but later pleaded guilty by conspiring to hinder the prosecution. In late 2005, Kerrigan expressed objections to Shane Stant's wishes to have attack removed from his record so he could join the Navy SEALs, which did not recruit anyone with felony conviction. Kerrigan stated, all right, and later to allow Stant to attack removed. Okay, not important. Did she win though? That's what I want to know. Kerrigan skated what she considered to be the best of 2 performances of her life. in the short program and free skate. She won the silver medal, finishing second. And ahead of China's Tanahari finished 8th. Okay, so that's some justice. Good. All right. So she won silver, not gold. Okay. Anyway, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's see what's going on here. First of all, Chiron is right on the ascendant. Wounds, pain, rejection. Chiron is retrograde. So that's very interesting. But let's see what else. Mars in Capricorn in the 10th house. So her ascendant Lord Mars is exalted in Capricorn. And I just have to pause it for 1 second. I have to turn off the AC. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. Just getting a little chilly in here. All right. So that's an excellent strong Mars in the 10th house, very clearly. MC Lord Mars, Ascendant Lord Mars in Capricorn. So excellent for athletics. Then she's got a whole 6th house South Node, Venus, Pluto, South Node, Virgo. So very hardworking, very competitive, very obsessive. Nothing will stop this kind of person, right? You can attack her, she'll get back on her feet, keep going. Because the Mars, which is ruling the MC and the ascendant, and then South Node, Venus, Pluto, 6th house. Pluto is making her so obsessive. Venus is the 2nd house, value system. And the 7th house, right? So, partnership, others. And then Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, Sun, Libra. So Sun's not so good in Libra, but none of these are great in Libra. But Jupiter's okay. But Jupiter in Libra is great. Jupiter and Sun conjunction is very much expands the ego. But Jupiter is very physical, like thighs, right, legs. And then Mercury, Uranus is going to be very quick. Mercury is ruling the 3rd. So short distance travel, skills of the hands. Skating, you don't really use your hands. But Jupiter is feet, ruling the 12th house here. Jupiter rules thighs, ruling the 9th, but it's also ruling the 12th. So it also rules feet, along with Neptune. And then North Node in the 12th in Pisces. So again, like the feet dancing, also you would look to sort of 12th house Neptune Jupiter, which figure skating involves dancing. It's very elegant and artistic. So we want to see some 12th house, some Neptune, some Venus. And then Moon conjunct Neptune in Scorpio in the 8th. So, for her own emotional satisfaction, she needs to win. She needs to dominate, right? And then she's all about relationships. She's all about partnership and all about competitive. She's all about others, right? 6th, 7th, 8th, and then 10th. And Saturn here is in the 2nd. I don't think that's doing as much. Not so great for money, especially when it's not in good dignity. It's neutral. What else are we looking for? Mercury, 6th Lord in the 7th. Oh, there's mutual reception between Mercury and Venus. So 6th and 7th Lord. So very competitive. And then what about the attack? What can we see there? Let's see here. Definitely Uranus. And then Pluto. Venus. Do we have a square? Let's see. Mars square Jupiter. That's gonna be very competitive, physically competitive. So it attacked her thigh. That's Jupiter. But it could be this. So Chiron opposite Uranus and Mercury, I think. So Mercury, 3rd Lord. So friend. I don't know if she was a friend, acquaintance, somebody in the neighborhood, right? Third house is not really friend, but it is social contact, right? Um, and that Uranus opposite Chiron with Chiron right on the ascendant retrograde. I could see that. And then Pluto conjunct Venus. Venus is seventh house lord in the sixth, so very competitive, abusive, aggressive. You know, people being abusive, aggressive towards her. Venus is second lord and seventh lord. Yeah. So I think between Uranus, Mercury opposite Chiron with Chiron in the ascendant, and then Pluto conjunct Venus in the sixth house with Venus ruling the seventh, mainly. That's it. As far as, you know, being attacked. But of course, Moon and you know, not so much Neptune, but Moon and Scorpio in the eighth. That is a difficult aspect because she might be very intuitive and even psychic. That's a really mystical quality here. Right? And then she does have North Node and Pisces in the 12th. So she probably somewhat of a psychic, and then Moon is in good dignity is trying the North Node. So that's really interesting. But, you know, ups and downs, troubles, things like that. And then Mars is ruling the eighth. It's ruling the first and the eighth. So Mars is malefic and public. So malefic public things. So here, Mars and Capricorn. When Mars is strong, this can go either way. This Mars, see, Jupiter is ruling 12th, the 9th. See, Mars is square Jupiter. Jupiter is thighs. Mars in Capricorn is very powerful. So this was a case where this Mars was projected outward. The attacker was Mars in Capricorn, square Jupiter, attacking her in the thigh. Yeah, normally she can embody this. She can you know, own this Mars, right? It is her ascendant lord. But for some reason, whatever, this was projected outward from her attacker, plus the other things, right? It's not just Mars, but Mars and Capricorn. When Mars is strong, or weak, there can be physical attacks. Saturn's retro and Chiron's retro. Yeah. Venus, Mercury, 6th, 7th lord, mutual reception. That means she becomes very competitive with partners. And probably doesn't have great relationships because too competitive and lost 12th from the 7th anyway. Carl Lewis. Outstanding athlete of his era, managed to excel himself and beat his rivals in the major championships. Lewis has won more gold medals than any other athlete in the last decade for sprinting and the long jump. His sister's athlete, Carol LeGrant Lewis. Okay, also an athlete, but let's talk about Carl. Okay, Leo ascendant. Sun is the ascendant lord. It's conjunct Mercury in Cancer in the 11th quadrant, 12th whole sign house. But in the first house, we have Uranus in Leo, North Node conjunct Uranus in Leo. So very proud but like shocking and fast. And then Mars conjunct Pluto in Virgo. Still in the first house, right? This Mars is actually not at this line, it's at this line, just because you can see it's being pushed away. Pluto is here. So it's still well in the 6th house. So Mars, Pluto, North Node, Uranus. So very strong physicality and obsessiveness. Mars conjunct Pluto, obsessive in Virgo, hardworking, competitive, driven. And then Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn's in Capricorn, Jupiter's in Aquarius in the 6th house. Very competitive again. Sixth lord, sixth house. Third lord, Venus on the MC. MC lord, Venus on the MC. So for third, so running, third lord. In good dignity, conjunct the 10th house. So naturally, runner, right? Maybe he could have been a writer too, but he chose to be a runner. South node moon in Aquarius. 7th house. South node moon is very intuitive and very sharp-minded. In Aquarius, there's a sixth sense that he has. He just knows things. He knows things about other people too, for some reason. Like he has a South node moon. That's like that's a very natural counselor too. In Aquarius. It's really interesting. Because he cares about people and he knows how to relate to people. He knows how to connect with people on the heart level. It's got nothing to do with being an athlete, but Moon's ruling the 12th house. So he has a knowingness to him. He knows about other people because ruling the 12th, it's conjunct South node, it's an Aquarius, it's very vibrational kind of thinking. Really interesting. Jupiter's ruling the 5th in the 6th. Jupiter is also ruling the 8th in the 6th. That's actually considered good. When 8th lord is in the 6th house, or 6th house in the 8th lord, or any of the malefic houses in each other's houses, considered good. It's sort of like two negatives. Two wrongs make a right. They don't, but in astrology, two malefics, or a malefic lord in one house, in the other malefic house, does okay. And he's got a grand water shrine. Very emotional. This Chiron is opposite Pluto. Usually it's opposite Neptune. That's amazing. So I have no idea what happened in his life, but it seems like he was rejected, got his feelings hurt, has some wounds. I mean, because Mars and Pluto's exactly opposite Chiron, but somebody was very abusive with him, very aggressively abusive, maybe beat him up even, right? Because Mars and Pluto in Virgo, opposite Chiron. And that's messing also with his so Neptune is in Scorpio retrograde, conjunct the IC, so early childhood. Maybe he got beat up as a child, and it really messed with his mind and his imagination, and it translated him to being very emotionally motivated to win. Mars is the 4th lord, conjunct Pluto. It's obsessive, and it's moving it's in the 1st house, but it's kind of widely conjunct the 2nd house cusp, so becoming his value system. What else? Mercury's the 11th lord and the 2nd. He should be a team player, but it's pretty close to the 12th house cusp, the ascendant lord sun. It's in water sign, so something subconscious. Mercury's retro, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune. Yeah, I don't know enough about him to really say anything else, but he seems like he's very, very tuned in to something else. First of all, he had this wound, but then he's very tuned in to something that allowed him to excel at his sports, at his field. So anyway, yeah, Venus in domicile conjunct the MC. That's very evident. And then Mars conjunct Pluto, North Node conjunct Uranus. Pluto and North Node both have a similar quality. North Node grows, it's obsession that grows. Pluto is just a deep psychological obsession. But if they're conjunct anything, you know right away that those planets that the North Node or Pluto are conjunct are going to have this obsessive, very deep, intense quality. North Node in the first house is very self-obsessed and physically obsessed. And with Uranus, it's all about speed, lightning fast speed. So that's Uranus. Uranus is not even speed. Uranus is now. That's what it is. It's like, okay, it's like if you're gonna race, Uranus is like, I need to be at the finish line like before it already happened. Like when the gun goes off, I need to be crossing the finish line. That's what Uranus wants. It's like no time at all. So it has to, crush time as much as possible. That's what makes it extremely fast. Lightning speed. It's lightning speed. Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi is a very messy guy. And that's how he got the name Messi. Obviously not. I'm a Gemini. I like to say stupid things. All right. Aquarius rising. So Saturn is conjunct Uranus in Sag. Okay. Ascendant Lord conjunct Uranus, right? Retrograde. Sagittarius. 11th house. Team player. Lightning fast. He wants to score the goal now. Right? Because of that Uranus. To say Uranus is impatient is to really not underestimate Uranus. Uranus is not impatient. Uranus has no patience. Uranus does not comprehend patience. Patience is not in Uranus's vocabulary. There's no such thing as patience to Uranus. Uranus is just, it needs to be now. That's Uranus. Neptune is square the nodes in Capricorn retrograde from the 12th house, which is very interesting again. Something very subconscious. Pluto's in Scorpio retrograde in the 10th house. So it's psychology, domination, right? Especially in Scorpio. Retrograde, meaning going against the grain. Definitely like in defiance of everyone and everything. He wants power, control, domination. That's his career. That's his path. Obsessiveness. Psychology. Mastermind. Venus is the MC Lord. It's in the 5th house in Gemini. Short distance travel. It's interesting because Gemini's skills at hands, and Mr. Messi is a Messi soccer player, which relies on the foot. Obviously, he's not Messi, but he's not Messi. He should change his name to Not Messi. Venus conjunct Moon, conjunct Chiron, 5th house. Sun, Mercury, Mars in Cancer, 6th house. Mars in Cancer again. So he's probably very emotionally driven, emotionally motivated as far as his and it probably means he gets very, very mad when he loses and very, very happy when he wins. But Jupiter is square Mars, and that's very competitive, where Mars, this is a mutual reception, but a mixed reception it's called. Mars rules Aries, Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So that's very competitive, the square driving Mars to perform, but it's also adding dignity to this Mars and Jupiter. And these are both very physical planets. Mars ruling the 4th in the 6th, so very competitive from an early age, probably played soccer from an early age. And Jupiter, not ruling the 6th actually, but there is a trade between 4th and 6th. And then North Node in the 3rd in Aries, right? For short distance travel. But Neptune in the 12th does rule feet. So that's why. So Neptune, feet. Capricorn, boss, retrograde. So he's got boss feet, and it's square the nodes. So that's why. And retrograde shows that he's just going to be doing things a little bit differently, not afraid to go against convention and orthodoxy. Pluto is in conjunct the North Node, so it's a contact, but a very uncomfortable contact with Pluto. So he's very, very obsessively driven to compete and succeed and win, especially as he gets older. Let's see. So Venus opposite Saturn, Uranus opposite Chiron, and Moon. But this opposition for any sort of competition is excellent. You want athletes and performers would generally, not always, but can benefit from oppositions and inconjuncts because it motivates them. Squares too, hard aspects in general. Right? Squares are the hard-working aspect. Oppositions are very competitive. Well, especially inconjuncts are even more competitive. But oppositions are generally team oriented or partnership oriented. But Saturn and Uranus are both the ascendant lord in the 11th house of team Sag. Thighs travel. Opposite Venus, and Venus is ruling 5th house, 5th lord in the 5th house, even though it's out of sign. Moon is Moon's 6th lord, 5th house, and Chiron's Chiron. So we're getting a lot of 5th, 6th activity opposite the ascendant lords in the 11th. So team sports, right? Opposition. Moon, Venus show what he loves. He loves sports. Venus is what we love sensorially. It's sensorial love. It's our favorite food. It's our favorite drink. It's our favorite couch. It's money in the bank, right? Good times, good people, good everything, in a sensorial way. And Moon is much more what we need for our deep, heartfelt satisfaction. So different kinds of love, right? And satisfaction. So he needs the team competition. Right? Mercury's retro, but very slow. And it's conjunct Mars. Mercury's the 8th lord in the 6th. Mars is the 4th and the 11th. So team and early childhood. But that Mercury is very slow, so it's powerful. Moon's out of bounds, so emotionally he needs to go to the extreme to feel emotionally satisfied. And then all the outer planets are retrograde, including Saturn and the nodes. Moon, Mercury. I didn't even look at that. Moon, Mercury. So there's so much in a chart, and that's also why I keep it simple. Like, you can't read a chart quickly if you fill it up with all sorts of bullshit that just really doesn't mean anything. People are always asking about Lilith. Well, Lilith does mean something, but not much compared to all these other planets. Or Vertex. Vertex, I've never found a use for. Like, just drop Vertex. Forget about it. Like, if you see it in a synastry, fine. Maybe it means something. But a lot of times it doesn't even show up in synastry. Good synastry. So forget about Vertex. Forget about all the asteroids. Just keep it simple. If you really want to understand the chart, understand it as much as you can without any of the asteroids except for Chiron. And then if you want to look at some other asteroids, once you really, really understand it, it's not going to do much. They don't do all that much, but maybe a little bit. Anyway. Moon, Mercury, mutual reception. And that's 5th, 6th house. Right? So all very expected. Phil Mickelson. So this is a golfer. Definitely the most exciting sport of all. It's so entertaining watching golf. I love it. I'm kidding. So nicknamed lefty for his left-handed swing, even though he is otherwise right-handed. I don't watch any sports, by the way, so not picking on golf. The American professional golfer is one of the leading players of his generation, having won 3 major championships in a total of 34 events. He reached a career high world ranking of 2nd in multiple years. Okay. So, famous golfer. Ascendant, almost the same as mine. Yeah, very similar to my chart, ascendant-wise. But he's got Moon and Neptune in Scorpio in the first. Now, I would say, oh, maybe this guy's doing drugs, but what advantage would you get from performance-enhancing drugs? Maybe they make you focus more. Maybe he's taking Adderall. I don't know, right? But maybe he loves this certain, like maybe certain drugs just like sharpen his mind, and that's what he's going for. But certainly Moon conjunct Neptune in the first house in Scorpio would be prone to medication, drugs, alcohol, or performance-enhancing drugs. So Mars is in Cancer. Wow, so another very emotional, very off the handle kind of player. When he loses, he probably cries at home, but gets mad in public. Sun is his MC Lord, 8th house in Gemini with Mercury in Gemini, right? So 8th house again. 8th house for golf. Well, 8th house wants to be on top. 8th house wants to win. 8th house wants to dominate. 8th house says that championship is already mine, but I'm really annoyed and pissed off that I have to show everyone and prove it. That's sort of the way 8th house thinks. Similar to Leo, it's just a bit different. Like, 8th house lives for that competition, for showing, for proving, for being, not for proving, for being on top, for being dominant over others. And of course, Mercury in domicile, in excellent, dignity. Mercury is exactly square the nodes. So this Mercury is not going to be left alone. You're not going to, anything square the nodes, or any strong squares to strong planet is going to motivate that planet to take action, to take charge, because it's like trying to sleep when you got a thorn in your bed sticking right in your back. You're just like, I can't sleep. I can't go, I gotta move. I gotta be active. I gotta get up. I gotta do shit. That's the square, especially the T square, right? So this Mercury, he's got to do it. It's got to be something he's doing in his life. He's got to face it. Mercury is skills of the hands. Golf is skills of the hands. South Node Virgo, Pluto, even though it's wide, it's still influence. It's still creating that obsession. Plus Pluto is square Sun, so he's driven. Like he's obsessively driven to perform in this mercurial way. Skills of the hands, 8th house, competition. Domination, I should say. Uranus is trine Mercury, so he's got the lightning speed of Uranus. Jupiter is trine the sun, bringing success to the sun, bringing Jupiterian growth and expansion and benevolence. North Node in the 5th house. Mars ruling the 6th in the 9th. But it's square Chiron. Ooh, so there's something very painful. Again, nursing that wound, proving to everyone that he's the best because he's wounded. Excuse me. Now, Chiron doesn't always mean wounds and pain, but when it has bad aspects to it, especially as Mars not in good dignity, but Mars does rule Aries, so it's good and bad. So there's probably a competitive wound, competitive rejection. Maybe he, like early on in his life, something happened. He like did some competition and he lost and he failed and he's like, I'm never gonna lose again. I'm gonna be a champion because I lost this one time, right? Mars in Cancer, very emotional. It's his ascendant lord. And that also shows a propensity towards weight gain, physical illness, physical weakness, or early death, unfortunately. Because it's his ascendant lord in poor dignity. And it's square Chiron. So that's not great. Venus is in Leo. Venus is 12th lord and 7th lord. So that's interesting. 12th and 7th. Well, Venus does have, Libra does have Uranus and Jupiter in here. Just a lot of pride. And 7th house still dealing with that otherness. And Sun is the ascendant lord. Saturn, 3rd and 4th in the 7th. 3rd and 7th. 4th and the 7th. So from young age being competitive. I mean, 7th house isn't really competition, but it does deal with that partnership, the opposition. And then Moon in Scorpio is opposite Saturn, and that's not going to be very good, right? That's going to be harsh. That's going to make him really driven. Actually quite fearful in certain ways. Because Scorpio is so dark and opposite Saturn. Saturn is fear. So he had to overcome a certain amount of fear. But see, Moon is ruling 9th house. You know what? 9th house feels very golfish to me because you hit the ball very far, right? And so there's that element of long distance. So I think that has something to do with it. 3rd, yeah. I mean, MC Lord in the 9th, 9th Lord in the 1st. And that's a mutual reception. Mars and Moon sign, Moon and Mars sign. Opposite Saturn. So a certain amount of discipline, especially in competition or opposition in relationship with others, but also a lot of fear. But the certain kind of dignity from this Mars, 9th house, Moon. Mars is out of bounds. Wow, he probably has a real temper. Jupiter retro. Oh, this Uranus looks pretty slow. Neptune retro. Yeah, Moon, Mars. And then the Mercury in domicile. That's excellent. Wait, what did he say? It was it's Uranus. Four days from station. So that Uranus is and it's trying the Mercury. So that Uranus is probably giving him very making him even more exact. It's very fast Uranus, but it's also very pinpointed. Right. So something about that. You know, being able to make the long shot. All right, let's keep going. Shaquille O'Neal. Now Shaq, obviously very big, very large man, basketball player, very likable. In fact, Shaquille O'Neal is very likable. He's like a big, giant teddy bear for some reason. I don't know why. He just seems very likable. And he's got Venus on the ascendant. I want to see what makes him large. Well, first of all, we could say Moon, Sun in Pisces, and obviously not Sun in Pisces is not going to make somebody large alone, but Pisces Neptune Jupiter are what I would look to for largest. Not necessarily Sag, maybe Sag, but really Pisces, Neptune, and then Jupiter also. Because here's why. Even though Jupiter is physically the gas giant, so Jupiter does expand things, Neptune rules things like whales and a huge giant fish, obviously, but also like land animal. The elephant is a Piscean animal. It's not a Sagittarian animal. The horse is Sagittarian. Elephant is Pisces. And just the energy of that is obvious to me. So just let me explain it for a second. Pisces are the largest land animal, or elephants are the largest land animal. And elephants have a very spiritual quality. And you see that in religions like a Hinduism. They have this, first of all, great, they're gentle giants, right? And they have this spiritual quality, they have tremendous memory, they're very intelligent, and they're very peaceful, and they're not going to hurt you. But if you if you get them angry, they can destroy a car, right? They can flip a car, they can crush a car, they can kill people easily, right? They don't have any predators naturally, because they're so large. They're the largest land animal. And Pisces energy is very much like that. Like if you've known Pisces, they are so receptive and passive. You can put out you can really take advantage of a Pisces to a point. And that point is where they gather their energy and throw it all back at you. And it's like a tidal wave. It's huge. It's enormous. Pisces have enormous energy. And, don't confuse their receptivity, their passivity for weakness, because when they decide to throw that enormous weight against you, it's like an elephant stepping on your head, or a tidal wave like crushing you. Right? That's the sort of thing. So it's like this huge energy that's also very passive. So yeah, so Sun and Pisces definitely makes sense. Let's see what else. Neptune, see the S? Neptune stationary and Sag. So I think that as well is going to have something to do with it. Let's see how it relates to Mars. There's Mars and Taurus. No aspect to Neptune. But Moon, widely conjunct Moon. Well, it's out of sign, but it's in the 8th house. But it's stationary, and it's a little bit of wide opposition to Saturn, where Saturn's the MC Lord in the 2nd house. So that's interesting. But Jupiter is conjunct the MC in Capricorn. So also interesting. Jupiter is not very good dignity, but Jupiter's Jupiter. Jupiter does bring success. And so it is helping out the career. Saturn is not really making an aspect to the MC. It's the MC Lord. But it is trine the North Node. North Node is in the 10th house in Aquarius. And but Saturn is trine Pluto. Saturn, the MC Lord, is trine Pluto. Pluto's in the 6th. So that's going to be very obsessive, right? And psychological. And 6th house. 6th house has Pluto and Uranus. So this obsessive quality. Pluto's also opposite Mercury. And Mercury is ruling the 3rd house, right? Short distance travel, skills of the hands from the 6th. So very obsessive there. And that's what you have to have these things like Pluto and North Node in order to be successful. Otherwise, you're not going to have the drive. Saturn for discipline, Mars just for energy, right? But you need like the Pluto, North Node. Jupiter is great. All the planets work well, but for that obsessiveness. For speed, Uranus. If you have to be creative or imaginative, definitely Neptune. So this Neptune stationary in the 8th house would give him a very powerful vision for dominating. Plus Moon is in Scorpio in the 8th house. Right? So he needs to win. He needs the title. He needs to have that very top position as in competitive sports, plus the 6th house, Pluto and Uranus. And that's trine Saturn. So it's also an air trine, grand air trine. Mars in the 1st, moving to the 2nd. So actually, Michael Jordan had Mars conjunct the 2nd house cusp. So values. It's not in Leo like Michael Jordan, but it is in Taurus. Mars and Taurus are fighters. Muhammad Ali, Alex Jones. So definitely they can be. Mars and Taurus can also avoid that altogether and just not want to deal with it and not be a fighter, but they can be. They certainly can be. So Venus is not in good dignity here in Aries. Venus is ruling the 7th and the 2nd. Definitely money is coming to him. And other people are coming to him, but in a negative way. Like there's other people are hurting him, like especially women. He gets hurt by women. Because Venus is not in good dignity here. And this is like coming, see the energy? It's other people. Venus is women coming to hurt him. Take advantage of him. Probably coming for money. Probably gold diggers. Unfortunately. He attracts gold diggers. All right. Mercury's the third. Let's check the dignities. Neptune station, right? Moon's a little out of bounds. Uranus retro, Neptune station. Super potent Neptune. Venus and Mars have a mutual reception, and so do Sun and Venus. So that Venus is actually it's in good dignity. Okay, because mutual reception with the Sun by exaltation, yeah. That's 12th and 1st. And Mars, right? So 12th, 1st, 2nd. Interesting, really interesting. With the Venus Sun mutual reception. Let's see. I don't know, it's got to do something with his subconscious mind. Foreign things are coming to him. But also money and values. And it's also his Mars, so ascendant Lord. So, maybe he gets these gold diggers, but then it kind of works out in his favor over the long run. Because of Venus and Mars, Venus and Sun, mutual receptions. But this Neptune in station, you know what? It's going to give him very, very powerful vision. Yeah. Probably the ability to, he's got 2 grand trines. This is my Gemini mind jumping from thing to thing. Grand air trine, grand fire trine. Any case, Neptune is Sag stationary. He can probably manifest his visions very powerfully. He can see himself winning, and then he manifests it. If you can manifest what you want, like crystal clear, you can probably get it. And that's what a Neptune is stationary, because it's going to give him very, very powerful vision for what he wants and imagines. Cristiano Ronaldo. Mars, Venus, conjunct Aries ascendant in Aries. And so Mars and domicile Venus is not in good dignity, but Mars and Venus exactly conjunct creates excellent physicality. Excellent physicality, because again, male, female, yin, yang, Mars, Venus, right? And then we see, Mars is strong here, Venus isn't. So here's an interesting thing. There's definitely tension with women with this, because women are coming to him, same as Shaquille O'Neal, in poor dignity, Venus, and in Aries. Mars is strong. Mars is his ascendant lord. So he's really strong, and he's attracting these gold diggers, perhaps, or just poor dignity women, probably gold diggers, considering his status. And he's so strong, he realizes that all they want him for is his money and fame and status, and he probably gets abusive with them, because a strong Mars, Mars is dangerous when it's either too strong or too weak. It's true, right? Mars in Aries, Mars in Scorpio, Mars in Capricorn, that can hurt people. And the opposite is true as well when it's in poor dignity. It can go both ways. Like they can get beat up or they can beat up others. They could be violent. They could have violence acted upon them. So I don't know anything about his personal life, but so Ascendant Lord conjunct Venus. So Venus is ruling the 7th. Venus is also ruling the 2nd. So money. North Node and Taurus in the 2nd. So he's all about money. He loves making money for sure. Sun conjunct Mercury, Jupiter, Neptune in the 10th. So Neptune in the 10th definitely loves the glamour, the glitz, creative career. Not good for anything like truth telling. So just, and I always say this, but I always want to say it again. If you see a politician with Neptune conjunct DMC, you know they're lying all the time. That's just their default. Just lies. They don't even know how to tell the truth. They're just lying. Or the 7th house or the ascendant, you know. Anyways. South Node, Saturn, and Pluto in the 8th house in Scorpio. So he's very disciplined. South Node Saturn shows a past of incredible discipline and structure and hard work and responsibility. Scorpio, 8th house, domination, control. Pluto, Scorpio, obsession, power, control, domination, strategy, psychology. So he's definitely very strategic. Saturn's the MC Lord in the 8th house. Mercury's the 6th Lord and the 3rd Lord, conjunct the Sun. So that's going to make him very competitive and 3rd Lord, short distance travel. Jupiter for soccer. Jupiter ruling the 12th for feet and thighs. So Jupiter in Capricorn in the 10th. So feet and thighs for soccer, career. Jupiter in Capricorn. It's not good dignity, but Capricorn for something like soccer, winning at soccer, great, fine, no problem at all, right? It's going to make him very hardworking and disciplined. It's not going to be good for religious or philosophical purposes. So what? Uranus in the 9th. I would think this would make him a good kicker because we got the thighs and Sagittarius and Uranus speed. So this might make him very fast. It might make him very great ability to be, this could be a fast runner. And this could also be somebody who can, very powerful kicker or a swift kicker, something like that. A striker, right? Somebody who can score goals and things like that. Because you got the legs, the thighs, and then Uranus. Uranus is not only speed, it's accuracy. Moon in Leo in the 5th house. So definitely a lot of love for sports and pride and ego, and a full moon. He's got a full moon. That's going to make him very popular as well, and crowd favorite. People love full moons. And they love 11th house planets too, especially when the 11th house has a lot of good dignity or just even neutral dignity. But like, if Sun and Mercury in the 11th house, these people become very popular. Right. North Node Taurus 2nd house. Definitely he wants resources and assets. So yeah, he's gonna own things with North Node and Taurus in the 2nd house. Mars, Venus are square Neptune. And Mars actually is in domicile here in Aries, but also exalts in Capricorn. So it's dignifying this Neptune. Neptune is the co-ruler of the 12th. So 12th here can be feet. So Neptune here, this could be feet, which again relates to soccer. So Neptune, Jupiter, feet, legs, thighs. Perfect. Career from feet and thighs, right? Soccer. Makes absolute sense. Chiron is in conjunct Neptune. So I wonder if there's maybe at some point he had an injury with his feet or an injury with his career that slowed his career down. Who knows? Maybe impeded his ability to travel, right? Gemini, third house, short distance travel. Injury to the feet where he couldn't walk at some point. I don't know. Something like that. And last, we are at Serena Williams. She became the world number one for the first time in July 8th, 2002, and achieved the ranking for the sixth time, February 18th, 2013, becoming the oldest world number one player in the Women's Tennis Association. She is reigning Australian Open, French Open, US Open. Anyway, highly celebrated tennis champion, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? I mean, she obviously cares. I don't care. I mean, it's all the same. Like tennis champion. Okay, great. Taurus rising, Venus in Scorpio, conjunct Uranus. Right. So her ascendant lord is in Scorpio, very obsessive, seventh house, other people, dominating other people with Uranus. Speed, not super close, but still there. Speed, accuracy, Uranus. Sixth house, stellium. Sun, Saturn. So Sun is debilitated, Saturn, exalted, Jupiter, Pluto, Mercury, all neutral. Moon in Virgo, 1 degree from mine, fifth house. Mars in Leo, fourth house. So definitely very proud. Mars square Venus. So definitely working the physical, pressured, constantly driven to exercise, to develop physicality. Mars, Venus. Mars ruling Scorpio. So Mars is dignifying this Venus, which is important dignity. So that's good. Venus is the ascendant lord. So that's important. Mars is ruling the 12th whole sign house, not ruling the cusp here. Exaltation lord of the MC. So that still counts. And seventh house in the fourth. So fourth house, I mean, it's not really early childhood, we could say. Mercury, skills of the hands, is square the nodes, right? That's something she cannot ignore. Mercury is ruling the third house. So Mercury is ruling the third and the sixth. So that's competitiveness. That's working with skills of the hands in the sixth house. Very competitive in, moving in almost, out of sign, but close to the descendant, which shows this is all about still a slight coming underneath, but almost equal, equality, partnership. But it is in Libra. And then the actual seventh house is Scorpio. So there's a mixing. It's very competitive. It's oppositional, it's competitive. Moon in Virgo, fifth, but Virgo deals with that competitiveness as well. Trine Chiron. Chiron is in conjunct Neptune. Moon is square Neptune. So again, this is going to show some woundedness, some pain of rejection, where Neptune is conjunct the ninth house, ninth cusp in Sagittarius. So the very philosophical Neptune, perhaps religious even. So there could have been something where she felt rejected, maybe through religion, maybe religious. She was rejected by her religion. I don't know. Maybe she left her religion. Maybe philosophically. Maybe her father's teaching. I don't know. Something about the ninth house, adventure, wounded her, right? It's in the first house. It's retrograde. It's in conjunct Neptune, drugs and alcohol. But it's trying the moon, but the moon is square this Neptune. So also is drugs and alcohol or some deception in philosophy, belief, something. This also makes her a little bit delusional, but Virgo is very good through good at seeing through Neptunian lies. But yeah, something's going on here. Not really sure what. Anyway, this is very obvious with the sixth house stellium, Libra, seventh house ascendant Lord Uranus in Scorpio, and then Capricorn ascendant, so MC Lord Saturn exalted in the sixth house, so of competition. South node in Capricorn, north node in Cancer. North node activating the moon, moon's in Virgo. South node just activating 10th house. Everything's direct except Chiron and the nodes. So we can tell like the Chiron is something, it's an issue for her because it's retrograde. So it's like this concern of being different, of being an outcast, of being a reject. That is something that she mulls over because it's turning back. It's like something I can't get over. I keep thinking about this thing. That's a retrograde. And resistance as well. Everything else she's direct about. But this Chiron, she feels she has an issue with being a reject, with being different. But that probably fueled her drive to win and excel. Right? And then plus very proud, very hardworking, and very dominant. And fast and accurate. And if you check the final dispositor, it's so like Venus is in Mars, Mars is in Sun, Sun is in Venus. So it kind of goes like this. There's no final dispositor except your Saturn is exalted. So that would be, I guess, the closest thing. But otherwise, it's sort of like Venus, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mars, Sun. So, you know, Venus, her ascendant lord, going to Mars and Leo, fourth house, fifth whole sign house, moving to the fifth house. It's like practicing at home, being physical at home, playing at home, and then sixth house, actual competition, where she really excels. All right. That's pretty much it, guys. I went through the whole list, probably took ages. So this is the Astrology of Sports. Or the Astrology of, I think I would call it the Astrology of Sports. Like, subscribe, share, book a reading with me. You can email me at macroastrology.com. No. You can go to my website at macroastrology.com. You can email me at macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. It's written down below. And support me so that I can pay rent this month. That'd be awesome. I do get readings. It's just not enough to fully support myself yet. Mediocre astrologer signing off. He's okay. All right, guys, I will see you again soon. And I got a request to do the astrology of royalty, which I'll do next. So that should be interesting. All right, see you soon. Bye.